and Diane Anderson.
She would have been 6 years old tomorrow, but Brianna Lopez never made it to 6 months.
Her death was one of New Mexico's worst child abuse cases, so bad that police officers cried, and the DA was left speechless. Are children any safer today? Here's News 13's Kim Vyas.
Baby Brianna's story prompted big change in New Mexico law, but some say it's still not enough. We need to caution viewers, seeing her story for yourself is hard, and it is very graphic. We have never shown images like this before, but investigators shared them with us in the hopes that people will realize just how bad the problem of child abuse is, and that it is everyone's responsibility to step in and stop it.
This is baby Brianna.
They raped her. They beat her.
Massive bruising on the head, and then her little fingers were lacerated, toes.
She had bite marks on her face, cheek, head, arms, legs, chest, torso, everywhere. Literally bruised from head to toe. From the top of her head, all throughout her body, all the way down to her big toe on her right foot.
On July 19th, 2002, baby Brianna died.
The day you went into that hospital and you saw her, what went through your mind?
I got a lot to do.
Detective Lindell Wright was the first officer on the scene.
What about when you did have time to sit down and look back?
Cried my eyes out. It'll stay with me for the rest of my life.
Investigators say Brianna's mother, Stephanie Lopez, father, Stephen Lopez, and her uncle, Andy Walters, were responsible. The night before, Stephen and Andy threw Brianna to the ceiling, then let her slam to the ground. And they had raped her, time and time again. Mom had bitten her child. The source of the other bruises remains a mystery.
Bite marks throughout her body that were old and new. She had skull fractures that were old and new. She had bleeding on the brain that was both old and new, which means she had been abused physically her entire life.
And while all the abuse was going on, another uncle and a grandmother knew, but never reported it or tried to stop it. District Attorney Susana Martinez prosecuted the case.
It tests you to the point of you're not sure you can speak. You're afraid that the emotion will take you over.
Martinez was able to get a conviction and a maximum sentence for all three abusers, but many argued it wasn't near enough.
When baby Brianna was killed, a person convicted of intentional child abuse resulting in death faced a maximum of 18 years in prison. Her case helped change that.
18 years for the life of a child? You know, I thought it was absurd.
It took State Senator Mary Jane Garcia 3 years of trying, but she changed the law to make the crime punishable by a mandatory life sentence.
If the judges continue to sentence to the maximum under the new law, the law is sufficient. But if a judge doesn't sentence them to the maximum to try to give some sort of deterrent effect to the rest of the community, we've lost.
Both Martinez and Garcia say more needs to be done to punish people who fail to report abuse. People like Brianna's grandmother and uncle.
Those two individuals knew she was being abused. She was full of bruises that were old, green, brown, yellow color. Had they reported it early, had they insisted on that child not being abused, maybe we would have never had her death take place.
They were sentenced to 30 days in jail. The maximum is 1 year.
I think perhaps we ought to try to make it 5 years at least. I would go for something like that, and I would certainly try it.
Detective Wright says it's not just the law that needs to change.
I think a lot of proactive still needs to happen as far as young parents need to have proper education, proper support systems. I feel that a lot of young parents are struggling by themselves. They don't have anywhere to turn, and it is the chemistry of child abuse.
Brianna's story still brings much pain to people in Doña Ana County who came together after her death, paid for her casket and burial, and claimed her body when no one else would.
The community felt that baby Brianna could have been their child, their granddaughter, their daughter, their niece.
Baby Brianna is now locked up in this cage. It's a mess, unkept, full of trash. It was put here by her family to keep the community who loved her so much out.
They were asked, and they said they just wanted to be left alone, and they wanted people to leave Brianna alone.
Inside, a cherub with a finger to her mouth, Some believe it's a message.
My first thought was, let's not talk about what's occurred here.
But the community vows to not let that happen. They still leave flowers here and have built another marker. The people of this community will never forget Brianna. Neither will the detectives, social workers, and prosecutors who worked on her case. Detective Wright says they never found pictures of Brianna in her home, not a single one of her playing, laughing, or smiling. He wanted to know what she looked like alive.
Before they started the autopsy, and her little face was lying on a white sheet, and I thought, she looks asleep. So I just took the picture.
A picture that has transformed into this. The bruises have been erased, the bite marks taken away, and the scars have disappeared. It's the Brianna this community likes to remember.
There's a photograph of her to carry on of her little life.
It's a picture that hangs on the wall next to Susana Martinez's desk.
I think it's a reminder, of course, of why we do what we do. If you forget, you'll either become too calloused or you will become, jello, and you can't do this job well unless you're in the middle. And that's just a good reminder of why we do it.
Brianna is never far from Detective Wright either.
It drives me to work harder, to prevent, to be a voice for every child of abuse. That's what it does.
If you know or even suspect that a child is being abused, all it takes is one phone call. We've posted that number on our website, krqe.com.
The decision to tell this story and how to tell it was not easy. Kim talks more about that on our website, krqe.com.